and we have our first guest of Radio Row. He's my draft father. He is my crawfish boiling sensei. He is a former Dallas Cowboys scout, a Super Bowl winning scout with the Green Bay Packers. And we say hello to Bryan Broaddus. Hi, Brian. Oh, hold on. Let's get him cranked up.
Yeah, here we go.
There we go.
Yeah. How about that?
Hi.
Hi. How we doing? Gentlemen, welcome to the fray.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're out here.
Good deal.
Your team's not even out here. Brian's on 105.3 The Fan.
Yeah.
Home of the Cowboys from 2 to 7. And your team's not even out here. They left you out here alone.
I drove.
Oh, you psycho.
I just like to do that. I like to have my own destiny in my hands.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, it's short. And I went to school in Baton Rouge, so I got to go through and see some friends and stuff like that. So, kind of like Uncle Clarence here, I always make it a work trip. You know, he'll in these cities, we got cousins and friends and all that, right, Clarence? We got cousins in Philadelphia, Washington, New York.
It's always work, mixed work and pleasure.
There you go.
Mixed work and pleasure.
There you go.
Got people everywhere.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? What are you doing in your Cowboy brain right now? Are you worried about coaching things, or are you just solely locked in on the draft?
No, I just kind of focusing on the draft. But I was, I ran in. We had a broadcast out there at the Omni the other day, and it so happened that Matt Eberflus and then our new offensive line coach was an offensive coordinator were staying. So I saw them checking in, boom. I know Matt Eberflus, well, like Clarence does. I mean, we've all covered Matt. And when I was with DallasCowboys.com, so it's nice to catch up with him again and all that. And guys are excited about being here. Didn't ask him about, hey, did you ever think about using a timeout or anything like that?
Yeah, no, don't ask about that stuff.
Didn't do any of that stuff.
Let him make it.
But no, it's it's just it appears that they're getting to hire the people that they want to hire. And the fact that they're going outside the building, I'm really glad that they brought Lunda Wells back. I think Lunda Wells can really coach, and so there were some questions that if Adams wasn't named as the OC, they still might hire an offensive line coach from what we're hearing. Yeah. So we'll see how that all plays.
One thing, certainly Shotty is not an exciting hire. But from your standpoint, from talking to people, is what they're doing with the assistant coaches, does that kind of give him more cachet compared to what McCarthy's assistant?
Yeah, I think when – you remember this very well, Clarence. When Mike McCarthy first came in, he hired a bunch of his friends, Jim Tom Sula, Mike Nolan, Rob Davis.
Brian Schottenheimer.
A lot of
that was later.
That was later, yeah. Ben McAdoo was the originator of that position. But, yeah, I think Jerry and Steven and Will allow you to hire coaches if you prove that these coaches are worthwhile. And then when they don't become worthwhile, then it's like, listen, hey, have you guys heard of Dan Quinn? Have you heard of Mike Zimmer before? So, yeah, I do. I'm encouraged by the coaches that have come in, and I think that any time that you have new ideas, new blood, I think that's a good thing, especially on a staff.
If you kind of look at Klayton Adams' time in Arizona, that offensive line, they do a lot of stuff there, but also a lot of different guys from different backgrounds in terms of where they were picked or how they were found to Arizona. They ended up kind of doing a lot of synchronicity, together there. In terms of Klayton Adams coming on, how much do you think that could help Tyler Guyton or a Cooper Beebe?
Yeah, from what I have friends in Arizona that were telling me about Klayton Adams was that, and this was encouraging to me, Joe, was that he will coach veterans and rookies the same. And I was worried about Guyton, and with Guyton it was really more about penalties. There was going to be the learning curve. He didn't play a lot of games in college. They threw him in there. We're so used to and accustomed to plug and play here. It just didn't work out that way. And so I was encouraged by that. This guy is the number one word I heard from him was a teacher, and and his ability. Wasn't a yeller screamer guy, but he wanted to. He'll take rookies, he'll take veterans, he'll coach them the same, and he'll get them all ready. What I was encouraged by, and Jeff and I did a podcast this morning together before your show here.
Incredible podcast.
Yeah.
Check out my personal YouTube channel.
And so we were talking about all the different things that when you look at Arizona and how they run the ball, we always talk about pin and pulls. We talk about outside zone, inside zone, trap plays. I mean, you look at how that was all broken down.
20%, 20%,
yeah,
20%.
Yeah.
If
you, it's not like, hey, we're going to hang our hat on inside zone. They really did a good job of like going to different avenues to try and move the football. And I think that's the one thing that I'm encouraged by by the hire is that hopefully he could come in with Schottenheimer, marry what he's learned in the running game. I hope he has some of that DNA from his dad as far as when he used LaDainian Tomlinson and those guys in the way that they played.
So when it comes to the draft, if you're new around here or you don't know all the characters that you're looking at or listening to right now, Bryan Broaddus was a Cowboy Scout, was a Packer Scout. Mm-hmm. Eagles ran the draft
Jacksonville,
in 98.
98, yeah.
Got to run the 98 draft, found 3 Pro Bowlers in that bad boy.
It's funny, you saw Hugh Douglas over here, like we're broadcast on WIP.
He was who we traded for.
We traded for Hugh Douglas in the second round. Mike Lombardi came in my office at the vet and goes, hey, listen, who do you got on the board in the second round? And I'm like, well, who are you thinking about? And he goes, I got a chance to get Hugh Douglas for us if you want to go for it. And I'm like, I don't got anybody on the board better than Hugh Douglas. And so, yeah, we traded for Hugh. So 4 of the 6 picks that we had or used made the Pro Bowl. But me and Mike never got to see that.
Yeah, and then immediately got thrown out.
Well, we got thrown
Thanks
out. We
also
introduced Andy Reid to and John Harbaugh to them. So Mike got John Harbaugh hired in Philly. And then they didn't know Andy in my background with Green Bay, so yeah.
So Brian was the one who, 2010, 2011, let me sneak into Valley Ranch and start watching the college kids with him. Mm-hmm. And
you would eat all the candy and all the coaches' meals, too.
And all the cherry Cokes, would do all that. And probably owe my career to Brian, so thanks for my career. I appreciate it. As you are getting ready for this year's NFL draft and going through the tape and looking at the 12th overall pick, do you have any initial leanings, like position group, that the talent is right, that it could make sense at 12, like things you're looking at as the most likely options?
If Dr. Cooper gives you a clean bill of health on Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle, he's the best. He's the best offensive tackle in the draft. This draft is not,
according to you.
This draft is not. You like Banks from Texas, right?
That's my guy.
Okay.
Campbell's good too. The LSU one. There's 3 really good ones.
Do you play Banks at Texas at guard, or you play him at tackle?
I think my favorite thing about Kelvin Banks is, what do you need? If you want to play him at left tackle, I feel good. If you want to play him at guard, I feel like you got a chance to have the Zach Martin thing happen where he's going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he had some good matchups in these bowl games. I know Clarence, being an alum, will tell you all about the games that they had to play, the Clemsons, the Ohio States, and stuff like that. You got some really good film on him playing against. And Ohio State's got some guys.
They got 2 good edge guys.
Yeah, that you have to deal with there. So that's the quality. I personally think that Simmons is the best tackle, but he has the knee injury. Everybody talks about Jeanty. Now, if you go through this draft, I think there's 4 backs that are really kind of workhorse backs. I think Jeanty is one of those guys. Yeah. Now, it goes down to like Hampton, is one guy, and then
North Carolina,
and then Johnson from Iowa, Henderson from Ohio State. Then I think after that, you kind of have to pair them up with a guy.
Right.
You don't want to make them the workhorse back. So, Jeanty will be the top on a lot of people's boards. Just you're picking that high. You're looking for health. You're looking for, you're looking for the player's ability, and you're also looking for the character stuff. You don't want to make a mistake.
Right.
This offensive tackle group that we've seen, I don't think it's as good as what we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
And some of the wide receivers, I think you could get an outstanding wide receiver. I'm kind of hunting an X to be opposite. I know you were always my wide receiver whisperer, talking about, well, man.
I was this close to the NFL. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
This close right here.
This close?
Yeah, extended all the way out, all the way past screen.
That was that close.
So that, to me, I think where Dallas is going to have to do some good in the draft, in free agency, if they're going to play in this game, they're going to go have to get another Eric Kendricks, because the linebacker room does not look as deep in the college draft. And I know, Joe, you study as well. It just doesn't look as deep right now with what I've seen. So corner, defensive tackle, especially one techniques, looks huge. Mm-hmm. Running backs, some wide receivers. You kind of see, you want your X, you want your Z, you want your slot player. Got a lot of those.
It's interesting because after over a decade, I guess, of doing this, of like watching the college players, and we used to build a draft board together, and so now just kind of doing that on my own, and you're trying to find these dream scenarios where it's like, oh, yes, that's the guy I have graded that I want in this spot. And then they go 20 spots earlier, and sometimes you got to go early. And I saw a mock draft this morning that had the Cowboys picking Walter Nolan, the Ole Miss defensive tackle. And my –
What, at 12?
Yeah.
12.
And my initial instinct wasn't to go, oh, no. My instinct was like, oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
And, like, I have him as a second-round guy.
Yeah.
But, you know, the draft is wild. I do think he has the tools of when you look at the – D tackles that are a double-digit sack threat.
Right.
I think Mason Graham is going to be a good, steady player. The Michigan guy, probably going to go top 10. I think he's going to be a steady, good player for somebody for a decade. Walter Nolan on the plays where you see him line somebody up one-on-one, that could be a double-digit sack guy.
Yeah,
and so, like, I'm like, I have him in the second round, but just seeing his name, I'm like, that is my favorite 3 technique. He could be a monster.
Yeah, the problem is he's got a little David Irving to his game.
Yeah,
And I don't mean that. I don't mean off the field where Clarence is running down reports,
selling rolling papers on Instagram.
No, I think where you look at, yes, there's that flash where like he could have that game against the Green Bay Packers where he's NFC Player of the Week, and then the next 2 games you don't see him really at all. So that inconsistency with the defensive tackle group, I think the thing with Graham, and a lot of people out there are looking at the Michigan helmet, especially Cowboy fans.
Don't do that.
Don't scout the helmet,
Don't
scout
do
the player.
that.
Wink Martindale's the defensive coordinator at Michigan. It's a different scheme. It's not the 2-gap read and react kind of stuff. It is like go. And so, just don't scout the helmet. But the 2 of the best defensive tackles taken in the draft are from Michigan.
So we're going to talk about the draft for the next 3 months, right?
Yeah.
What are you trying to do?
We're at the Super Bowl. Can I ask Brian about the Super Bowl?
Sure. Go ahead.
Come in. You know, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about the draft for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
Why?
Hater.
You've been here a long time. You've been around a long time. Longest I've been around.
I've been.
You're
all
old.
these Super Bowls. Yeah. Most of them.
Why have the Cowboys struggled? Why have the Cowboys struggled to get back in the big game from when you were on the staff to off the staff? What is the problem?
Yeah, Clarence, we were awful. And I think that's about when you were starting with us.
96, 97?
Yeah, we
It's
were.
Clarence's fault. It started when he got here.
No,
He's
we were in the early 2000s. We just were not. We were. You know, we did a poor job in scouting. We never found a quarterback. The coaching staff did not do a good job. Front office didn't do a good job. And I include myself in that is why. And then Parcells came in, kind of gave it some credibility and stuff like that with what we had to do. I think this team over the years has been built to win the division. I don't think it's been built to win the conference. You know, when you start to look at the teams around that are – Howie Roseman, to me, is built a team that can win the conference, you know.
Or the Super Bowl.
Or the Super Bowl. Yeah, right. Absolutely. You look at some of the quality teams, you know, what they've done in Kansas City, what they've done in Buffalo. These teams are built to win. I think I think Will does a really nice job of building a team that can compete with the Eagles, and now the Commanders are in the situation. People say, "Well, damn, Brian, they beat the Commanders once last year," but it was like it was kind of crazy, fluky kind of things that happened along the way. But the thing about it is, like I say, I just feel like that this is a team that just does not. They have players. They have players that can play to a certain level, but they don't have difference makers, and I don't think they have difference makers at a head coach. I don't think they've had a difference. Now, people say McCarthy won a Super Bowl and all that.
No, I wouldn't. I like McCarthy. He's not a difference maker.
We all like Mike, but you
can't say
you
that.
Look at these coaches. You look at these coaches now that are in these games. They are difference makers. There are reasons why they're able to push on.
Bryan Broaddus, you can hear him on 105.3 The Fan. You can see him on YouTube with me twice a week. You can see him on YouTube with Vach Lombardi all the time. You can see him on the Love of the Star podcast. Brian's everywhere. Brian, we appreciate you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You guys have a great week.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's go get some crawfish and some gumbo.
Sounds good, brother.
And some etouffee.
Crawfish!